Speed wins fights, control wins fights. One doesn't usually come with the other, which sucks. But what if you could have both and leave 9mm shooters wondering what the hell just happened? In this video, we'll talk about the overlooked 22 TCM, a bottlenecked rocket sled round that tears up the range with rifle-class velocity and barely any recoil. You'll see why a 40-grain bullet at nearly 2,000 feet per second changes the entire dynamic of handgun and rifle shooting. We're diving into the full lineup, from factory pistols that swap between two calibers in minutes, to bolt guns that spit rounds faster than a .22 Hornet, to AR builds that light up the sky like a 4th of July finale. We'll cover real-world ballistics, prices that actually make sense, and the quirks you need to know if you're thinking about building your own. Stick around, because the 22 TCM isn't some wildcat gimmick. It's the sleeper round that punches faster, runs cleaner, and flattens targets harder than most people realize. The 22 TCM delivers rifle-class velocity in a sidearm while keeping recoil lower than a 9. Chronographs don't lie. An ArmScore 40-grain jacketed hollow point leaves a 5-inch pistol around 1,900 feet per second and carries 312 foot-pounds of energy. Standard pressure 9mm with a 115-grain bullet does about 1,100 feet per second for right at 320 foot-pounds. On paper, the energy is similar, yet the lighter TCM bullet arrives almost twice as fast and stays flatter past 50 yards. That translates into shorter lead on moving steel, smaller holdover on distant poppers, and a noticeable reduction in wind drift. The extra speed also pushes the permanent wound cavity a bit farther forward before the bullet slows down, so soft tissue disruption happens sooner in the track. Nobody claims a 40-grain pill hits harder than a 124-grain 9, but when the target is thin-skinned, varmints, coyotes, or cardboard silhouettes, the effect is impressive. The cartridge itself is a clever cut-down 5.56. Fred Craig kept the base diameter and rim dimensions that feed perfectly through a para-pattern double-stack 1911 magazine, trimmed the case to match 38 super overall length, and gave it a sharp bottleneck. Martin Tuason at Rock Island Armory saw the potential and greenlit factory guns in 2012. They originally called it the Micro Magnum, then shortened the label to Tuason Craig Micro Magnum, or TCM for short. The goal was simple: give 1911 fans a screaming 22 that still runs off a conventional centerfire primer and shares magazines with 9mm. Low recoil is the secret sauce. The full-size Rock Island TCM FS with a 5-inch barrel ships with an 8-pound recoil spring. When you rack the slide, it feels closer to a rimfire trainer than a service pistol. Folks with arthritis who struggle with a Glock 19 can work the TCM like it is nothing. Follow-up shots are just as friendly. The dot barely wiggles, and the orange fireball you see in slow motion does more to excite the crowd than disturb sight alignment. Even recoil-shy shooters find they can double-tap steel plates faster than with 9mm because the muzzle barely lifts. 3 factory pistol trims wear the Armor Series diamond-like carbon skin. The midsize MS has a 4.2-inch barrel, 17-round magazine, fixed fiber optic front, adjustable rear, and a street price right around $790. The full-size FS stretches the tube to 5 inches for another 100 feet per second without raising the tag. A smart buy for anyone chasing maximum velocity. The Pro FS costs about $979, tax on G10 grips, front slide serrations, a frame rail, and an LPA 2-dot rear. All 3 use ordnance-grade 4410 steel and a 3.5 to 4.5 pound trigger that breaks clean. They arrive with a spare 9mm barrel and spring in the case, 1 field strip, 1 swap, and you're shooting the world's most common pistol round. Range days get cheaper, and defensive practice stays realistic. The TCM story doesn't end at the holster. Rock Island pushed the cartridge into a bolt gun called the M22 TCM. Think of it as a rimfire trainer on steroids. 22 3/4-inch barrel, 5-round detachable pistol magazine, walnut pattern birch stock, pick rail, and a factory tag in the mid-400s. ArmScore markets 2,800 feet per second, but real chronograph data averages 2,693 on an 80-degree day, which is still faster than a Hornet leaving a .22 Hornet rifle. Groups hover around 3 minutes of angle with bulk ammunition. It isn't a prairie dog laser, yet for plinking varmints inside 100 yards, it gets the job done with recoil, similar to a hot .22 Magnum. The bolt lacks front lugs and locks on the handle cam, so primary extraction takes a deliberate lift, but the action is solid and the trigger breaks at 5.5 pounds. Full-size 17-round pistol magazines fit if you want more time between reloads, handy when the sounder of pigs won't stay still. AR builders haven't been left out. KAK Industry Machines blowback barrels in 5.25-inch and 8.5-inch lengths for $99 and change. The tube is 41 V50 chrome moly vanadium, threaded half-28, and marked for caliber. Because the round operates well above 9mm pressure, KAK specifies a 9mm one-piece bolt carrier, a 10-ounce extended buffer, and an AR-10 carbine spring. Ignore that advice, and you risk premature bolt opening, flared shoulders, and trashed brass. A modified Magpul Endomag feeds full-size M22 TCM cartridges flawlessly, freeing builders from the shorter 9R bullet often required by Uzi or Colt stick conversions. On a registered lower, the 8.5-inch demo upper runs full auto at cyclic rates similar to 9mm, while spitting a blue-white flame 3 feet long. The grin factor is off the charts, and even in semi-auto, the tiny bottleneck makes brass pile neatly at 2 o'clock for easy policing. Range data backs up the hype. A 5-inch TCM with factory 40-grain JHP groups under 2 inches, handheld at 15 yards. Move-to-steel silhouettes and transition drills feel almost unfair. The dot snaps from plate to plate with no need to ride the trigger reset. On a plate rack, the round's speed flips the steel hard despite its light mass, and the massive report turns heads 3 bays over. The recoil impulse is so gentle that double taps drill a vertical string less than an inch apart. Extended sessions stay comfortable because the slide is easy on wrists and the grip angle is pure 1911. Instructors training new shooters love the caliber. The concussion teaches respect, but the lack of push keeps flinching to a minimum. Reliability has been excellent. 500 mixed rounds in one informal torture run produced no stoppages once the magazines broke in. The only maintenance issue was unburned powder grains peppering the frame rails after 200 rounds, addressed by a drop of lubricant and a quick brush. Factory ammunition remains surprisingly affordable. Armscore's 100-round value pack sells for $32 when you can catch it on a free shipping weekend. 32 cents a trigger pull for nickel-plated boxer-primed brass you can reload. That price splits the difference between Bulk 9 and Green Tip 5.7, yet delivers more drama on the firing line than either. Reloaders appreciate that die sets run about $45, and that Lil Gun, H110, and 2400 all produce single-digit standard deviations with the 40-grain Spear soft point. Hand-loaded rounds using 10.5 grains of Lil Gun Clock 2070 and print 1-inch clusters at 20 yards from a 5-inch pistol. Switch to the M22 rifle, and velocity jumps past 2,800 with the same charge, though accuracy improves only when bullets are seated long. Single-shot mode, but worth it if you need coyotes gone tonight. No cartridge is perfect. The muzzle flash bright enough to roast marshmallows will wreck night vision in a hallway. Factory ammo is currently a single SKU, so if your local shop doesn't stock Armscore, you'll be ordering by the case. The Bolt Gun's 3 MOA average won't impress Precision Rifle League shooters, and AR builds demand heavy buffers and proper mags. None of these quirks ruin the experience. They simply require honest expectations. If you want a bedside blaster, there's a reason the combo pistols include a 9mm barrel. If you expect bug hole groups at 200 yards, you're holding the wrong stick. And if your idea of an easy home gunsmith project is dropping a random lightweight 9mm buffer into a M22 TCM upper, you need to revisit basic blowback theory. The people who should give this caliber a serious look fall into 4 categories. First, recoil-sensitive shooters, not just senior citizens, but anyone recovering from hand surgery or fighting arthritis, will appreciate a pistol that cycles like a .22 but roars like a Magnum. Second, speed junkies addicted to plate matches will shave tenths off transition times without moving to a compensated open gun. Third, practical preppers can store one pistol, one rifle, one type of mag, and still train with cheap reloadable ammo while keeping 9mm capability in reserve. Last, curious tinkerers who already own Wildcat uppers and oddball revolvers will gain another talking piece that actually feeds and fires without custom lathe work. Street prices make experimentation painless. A TCM FS combo with both barrels runs about $630 at larger dealers, only $40 more than a basic government 9. The M22 rifle lands under $500 new, KAK's barrel at $99, a 10-ounce buffer at $50, and a Magpul Endo-Mag conversion bring a full AR build in well below what a decent 5.7 upper costs. Add 32-cent ammo and even high-volume weekends stay within budget. Longevity concerns? The Armor Series coating is baked on at the molecular level, measuring near diamond-like carbon hardness. Carry one daily through Manila humidity or Arizona dust, and the finish laughs at holster wear. Owners running 5,000 rounds report zero discernible throat erosion. The tiny charge of pistol powder and the light bullet simply don't torch throats like rifle magnums do. Springs are cheap when they finally tire, and barrels swap with the same bushing and link as any government model. Friends often ask whether I'd trust the cartridge for defense. My answer remains consistent. Inside 25 yards, shot placement matters more than caliber, and a controllable pistol always trumps one that kicks out of time. 22 TCM recoils softer than 9mm, places follow-ups faster, and penetrates enough gel to reach vital organs. It lacks heavyweight bullet momentum, yet the energy arrives fast and dumps early. For me, the TCM barrel stays in for range fun and small varmint duty, while the 9-barrel goes in the slide for carry. Swapping takes under a minute and means I always have ammunition options if supply lines wobble. The muzzle blast is a feature, not a bug, when you want to wake steel in a hurry or shut down a feral dog pack. The sharp crack is more like a tiny rifle than a pistol, startling anyone who thinks handguns are supposed to bark quietly. Spectators crowd the bench the first time they see a fist-sized fireball leap from a 5-inch slide. They expect heavy recoil, then smile when the front sight merely nods and settles. Within 10 rounds, they ask where to order ammo. That evangelism happens every time a newcomer presses the trigger, and it has kept Armscore brass rolling off machines even during market slumps. If you reload, keep spent cases. Nickel plating on factory brass resizes smoothly and survives 5 or 6 firings before the neck cracks. A cantilured 40-grain VMAX pushed by 10 grains of Lil Gun Clock's 2100 out of the pistol and explodes water jugs with authority. In the rifle, the same load hammers varmints cleanly to 150 yards. Seating depth is your friend, keeping the ogive just shy of the lands in the bolt gun Titans groups, even if that forces you to single feed. Primers matter too. Federal 205 small rifle gives tight standard deviations. CCI 500's misfire and leaves soot on the brass. Attention to detail rewards you with surprising accuracy for such a stubby cartridge. The AR platform brings its own learning curve. Stick with a 9mm one-piece carrier and the specified 10-ounce buffer. Ignore anyone who says a 7-ounce slug is fine. Bolt bounce and early unlock will wreck the shoulder of the case and send gas where it shouldn't go. The 308 carbine spring slows everything just enough. Once tuned, the blowback upper cycles like a sewing machine and ejects brass in a neat 3-foot circle. Suppressed configurations are tricky because unburned powder can gum things up, but a heavier buffer and an adjustable charging handle vent keep everything manageable. Where does the caliber sit in the big picture? It isn't trying to replace 9mm service loads or 308 battle rifles. It fills the gap between rimfire plinkers and service pistols. Call it a sweet spot for cheap thrills, fast transitions, and light recoil. It turns a steel match into a fireworks show, drops varmints humanely from a handy little bolt gun, and gives tinkerers a new puzzle that doesn't cost Magnum money. The next time someone says 9 is king, show them a shot timer instead. If the 22 TCM caught your interest, or if you're thinking about which rig you'd run it through, drop your loadout ideas in the comments. Would you go with the standard pistol bolt gun combo, or build yourself a blowback fireball AR? Hit like if you want more deep dive breakdowns like this, share it with the one buddy who's always chasing faster splits, and smash that subscribe button so you're ready when we dive into the next forgotten cartridge that deserves a second shot. Thanks for watching.